This video is about the Eichmann trial in Jerusalem. Eichmann was tried from April to December 1961. The judges were Moshe Landau, Benjamin Halevi, and Yitzhak Raveh. It should be mentioned here that all of the judges were fluent in German, so that the trial was not only in Hebrew, but especially questioning of Eichmann was in German. Attorney General was Gideon Hausner, and Robert Servatius was a defense lawyer. Servatius is from Cologne, and it should be mentioned he's not a Nazi, or he was not a Nazi. Now, Eichmann was one of the worst Nazis, one of the worst criminals of the Third Reich, because he was responsible for the mass deportation of Jews to Eastern Europe, where they faced death in the extinction camps. A large number of Nazi criminals could go into hiding after the war. They were never prosecuted, never brought to justice. Eichmann was an exception. He was located in Argentina, and Mossad and Shin Bet brought him to Israel. He arrived in Israel on the 22nd of May 1960, and the next day an arrest warrant was issued. For the next 9 months, Eichmann was brought to northern Israel in a fortified police station where Avner Werner Less interrogated him. In February 1961, Attorney General Hausner brought a lawsuit against Eichmann, and the trial commenced in April 1961. Now, what kind of trial was it? It was held in a converted theater in Jerusalem, and Eichmann was protected by bulletproof glass. That looked surreal, but it made sense. It made absolute sense, because Israel did not want an act of revenge by an individual. Israel wanted justice. There was a global media coverage, not only newspaper, but also film, and the languages I mentioned earlier were Hebrew and German. The legal basis was the Nazi and Nazi collaborators law from 1950. And that was designed after the London Charter for the Nuremberg Trials. The Nuremberg Trials started in 1946. Now the evidence. More than 1,500 documents, a lot of them from Yad Vashem, more than 100 witnesses, mostly survivors of the Holocaust, and the transcripts of Eichmann's interrogation mentioned earlier in the 9 months previous. And also, psychologically and historically, really interesting, the questioning of Eichmann himself. The indictment: crimes against the Jewish people, crimes against humanity, war crimes, membership in a criminal organization. The defense wanted to get Eichmann out of that by saying Eichmann only followed orders. Furthermore, the Nazi collaborators law was issued in 1950. The crimes were in the 40s. So that would mean retrospective legislation, and that is not right. Also, the abduction of Eichmann from Argentina was seen as illegal by the defense. And Eichmann's crimes were acts of state and therefore not subject to normal judicial proceedings. So the court did not follow this, and just to mention here. But interesting now, Eichmann's behavior. Eichmann evaded when he was asked, and trying around, never giving clear answers, and he only admits to facts when they're so obvious that he couldn't deny it anymore. But he never took on responsibility. He always said, I was just following orders. So he appeared as a stereotypical bureaucrat and desk murderer. Now, the court adjourned in August, reconvened in December, and gave judgment and passed the death penalty. Eichmann appealed. The Supreme Court confirmed the verdict, and then, shortly before midnight on the 31st of May 1962, Eichmann was executed. On the same night, the Israeli Navy scattered his ashes in the Mediterranean. With the Eichmann trial, justice could be restored. Having said this, justice could be restored only as far as possible with regards to the seriousness of the Nazi crimes and the suffering of the Jewish people. Furthermore, there was a collective dealing with the Shoah and understanding also as far as possible. And this dealing with the Shoah was not only in Israel, it was global attention was drawn to the trial and therefore to the Holocaust. And at the end, it should be mentioned there were some controversial discussions. Here, mention Hannah Arendt's book, Eichmann in Jerusalem, and her phrase, banality of evil. If you have a look and watch the video material accompanying the trial, as absolutely say, right, yeah, that's banality of evil. desk murderer. However, you have to see, firstly, Avner Werner Less said Eichmann was using this only as a defense strategy, and also banality that could implicate if you're stupid and not clever, not well educated, it's easier to fall for evil. But that's not true. Good and evil is not a question of education or intellect. That was the Eichmann trial in 5.